the record. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time to be here tonight. Those of you that are live, some of you will be watching this on recording, that's for sure. And since this is going to become part of an ongoing module at Full Circle, there'll be some of you that'll be seeing this, down the road somewhere in the years to come. So let's get right to it and click all of the right magic buttons and get everything underway here. Okay, so I'm going to hit the slide. And that should get us operational here. Okay, so Dodie, we are operational, yes? We are, yes. Good. And you know what? Interesting is that where my new computer wants to put things, well, I got stuff all over the place tonight. That's kind of feel like I'm looking kind of sideways, which is kind of weird. So anyways, my one monitor is over there. So for those of you that are new to Full Circle or have not had a chance to interact with us, this is who we are and what we do. We have a 4-part model that I developed 25 plus years ago at the point of this recording, in order to really understand how, at that point, I'd done what I'd done. How I got into the coach consulting space was literally I kind of backed into it. There was no divination experience. There was no burning bushes or anything. Literally, I consciously intended my life and my ideal, which looked like taking 10 to 12 weeks of holidays a year, working a 25 to 27 hour work week and making a nice 6-figure take home salary. So apparently there were some people that were interested in how I did that, and they wanted to pay me to do it, and literally that's how I get into the coaching. So when I actually stopped and thought through how I designed my life and my business and my ideal, and one of the things we're very big on at Full Circle is that your personal life and your professional life must be hand in glove. It's an unsustainable model or thought process to think that you can just go out and work insane hours and forget about your family, forget about your hobbies, forget about your spirituality, forget about you. That's in my opinion, our opinion, unsustainable model. So getting clarity on your vision is absolutely paramount and bar one. And I'll show you a slide where we'll go over the details of that. We go into the focus piece, which is our second pillar of our model, which is really the blocks that are in the way of your vision expressing itself. And every entrepreneur I've ever met wants to create or should create systems in order to save you significant time, energy, and money, if you know the acronym. And that's really what they do, is they save you significant time, energy, and money. And then, of course, a team is necessary if you want to create any sort of leverage or scale and not just be, super person, superwoman, superman, and do it all yourself. So if you look at that in one really nice, colorful slide that our tech team put together, if you can see my mouse moving, the essence of who you are is expressed through your values, gives you your authentic vision. And then we work through the focus blocks and the systems and team that are necessary support that vision, working on your skills, your tools, your network and resources in order to allow that to manifest. So for those of you new to Full Circle, that's who we are and what we do. And it's our passion and our purpose in life. So thanks for being here tonight, because by you being here tonight, you allow us to fulfill our purpose. As I already stated earlier, but I'll say it a little bit more succinctly, we really focus on who you are as a person and help you grow both personally and professionally, because we have absolute certainty that you can only grow as high professionally as you can grow personally. And once you've in that space, the outcome of that growth is more income, more time off, and more joy and fulfillment in the process. So if that sounds like something you would like more of in your life and you haven't had the chance to interact with us, certainly reach out to us after this conversation tonight, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that. So tonight, we're very specifically going to focus on how to use a business North Star to ensure success. Okay. And again, these are, as of this recording, rather unprecedented times in human history. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of chaos. We certainly have a lot of people reaching out to us that are asking for some stability in their lives. And I've commonly been mesmerized by, the sailors of old when, sailing before the days of flight and stuff, when they would take their sextant and use the North Star as a guidance device, and it would just take them from Europe to North America or whatever it was that they were going. And one of the keys to, of course, to having a North Star is it's something that's constant and consistent that you can use as a frame of reference forever. And that's really what I want to talk to you tonight. I think a lot of people know that there should be something constant and consistent in their life they can ground to, but they don't necessarily know what that could be. what we want to do for tonight is we want to share with you exactly what that could be, should be, and is in our lives and in our clients' lives, and how that helps to make the all the difference in the world. Okay, so one of the things we're seeing a lot of right now as we have new clients coming on to us is we see what we call the yo-yo, right? And the yo-yo syndrome in business is all about how we have these relatively up periods of time with new clients and services and volume, and then we see the downturns, and we see the upturns and the downturns, and the upturns and the downturns. And that whole experience is quite emotionally demanding, because it's hard to plan, it's hard to feel stable, it's hard to feel certain, it's hard to feel like, you can support your family in the way that you want, that you can take the investments in innovations and things you want to make in your business, because there's no stability. Right. And without stability, that wishy-washiness, so to speak, is really a problem. And it creates all kinds of, of that, again, that the outcome of that, this yo-yo effect, this up and down kind of a thing, right? So actually, I'm kind of curious. There's a few of here folks on the call tonight that I would love to let's just go back a little wee bit here, if I can make the thing do exactly what I'd like it to do. I'd love to just see into the chat. Let's just see if we can get some folks into the chat. Is there any folks right now that are seeing this yo-yo, or have seen in the last 20 months this yo-yo effect? If you do, just put me in the chat. I'd be interested to see if, get your fingers to the keyboards, gang. I'd love to see if, yeah, Tyson's definitely saying for sure. Eric's saying me for sure. Yeah, there's definitely some folks that have seen that. And of course, the next slide that I couldn't backtrack on, right? Dan says me as well, is cash flow, right? Because the cash flow is really one of the things that makes, the infamous world go around. It's one of the things that makes business stable. And of course, for most of us as entrepreneurs, that is our, main or primary source of income. And when it's unstable, when it's bouncing up and down like a yo-yo, well, then our cash flow is bouncing up and down. And the commitments we make, and if you're already a full circle client, you hopefully know what a bliss sheet is, a business life plan intention sheet, and tracking and putting out intentions for exactly what you want your life to look like, putting it out on a month-to-month basis, and then tracking it. When you're not hitting those targets on a month-to-month basis because your cash flow isn't there, it can feel frustrating. I know from periods of time in my life, I used it as an excuse to beat the crap out of myself. Who am I suck, that kind of stuff, right? So these are some of the frustrations that we're seeing with people, and it's real time, you guys. So if you're feeling a bit of that right now, which some of you had said in the chat, I appreciate your commitment to staying engaged to me with me within the chat. You're not alone. It's happening all over the place, right? And there are ways to mitigate that, which is really what the North Star is all about, right? Because here's the thing, you guys, there will be storms, right? In life, in business, there will be storms, guaranteed. There will be things come up that you maybe didn't see coming, you didn't want to see coming. And, when you're going through that, if you don't have something to ground to, if you don't have something that's constant and consistent in your life to bring you back, it's going to be even tougher to weather some of those storms, right? And we've had some clients that have weathered some really big storms, right? We had a client from the Eastern Townships of Quebec that hit a snowplow head on in the winter going home from the office one time and spent 11 weeks in ICU in a coma. That's a pretty big storm, you guys, right? We've had clients recently that have gone down with different bugs and viruses and stuff, right? That takes them out of practice for a week or two at a time. We had clients in the start of a pandemic that literally closed their offices for a couple of months. I mean, these are storms, you guys, right? We've had clients that have weathered cancers and sicknesses and bankruptcies, and just shit happens, right? So how is it that we stay grounded? How is it we stay connected? What is the constant in our life? That's really what your North Star is designed to be. Because the big fear for every entrepreneur, and I lived like this for several years early in my career, the big fear that it's all just a big effing deck of cards, a house of cards, and it's all going to come crashing down someday. And that fear, you guys, that fear can literally drive you in the wrong direction. My experience, it'll take you away from the things you want, but it's a real fear. It's launched right back here, and it's tied to the yo-yo syndrome, the changes in cash flow, the fluxes in cash flow, and some of the storms that end up showing up and hitting you as you go through life, right? So what's the answer? What's the antidote? What's the kryptonite to this kind of a situation? Well, It's to find ways to have stability in your life and your practice. Okay. This is a great picture. I can't imagine anything much more stable than this great big, God knows how many hundreds of maybe millions of tons this boulder weighs. But I can tell you something, there isn't any storm that's going to move that boulder.
It's got a new revised.
And that's really what we'd like for you, is to have that level of stability so that you can weather storms. You can feel that sense of comfort and confidence that you're going to be able to fund your lifestyle, do the things for your family, put your kids in the camps if that's what it is that floats your boat, and have that thing. And this is what a North Star can do for you. I also love to see progress. I love to see that there's a direction, that there's something that's moving forward. If you're constantly taking 3 steps ahead and 2.5 back, or 3 steps ahead and 4 back, I can tell you that emotionally that's very demanding, very frustrating, and it definitely is something that everybody that I've ever had a chance to work with in my 25-year consulting career definitely wants to see. That's possible when you have a North Star to guide you, okay? And again, of course, this slide really is just talking about guidance. And, you know, one of the things that I value highly in my life is my 30+ year meditation practice, which has been largely a daily practice. I can't say that I haven't missed the odd day here or there. The form with which I've practiced meditation has changed over the years, and it shifts. I have many forms with which I practice meditation, but I can tell you that inner guidance that I get is where it's weight in gold for me. And it's that guidance outside, but kind of inside, and we'll talk about that in a minute, what that really means, you guys, is really what the North Star is designed to do, is to give you, again, that constant source of stability and guidance, to know that you're moving in the right direction, to know that the priorities and goals you're setting are there. Because, you know, just out of curiosity, has anybody here ever been bitten by the procrastination monster? Anybody here? Just throw it in the chat if I'm talking to the right crowd here. Yeah, Dodie says me for sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Throw it in the chat if you've had been bit by the procrastination monster. Tyson says, of course not. Yeah, yuck, yuck, yuck. Dan swallowed it whole. Yeah, for sure, right? I mean, I don't know anybody that hasn't been bit by the procrastination monster at times. I can tell you that there's many reasons for that. But in my 25+ year career as a professional coach consultant, I can tell you one of the most common reasons is from a lack of clarity from that guidance source that we're going to work on tonight, which is that North Star. Okay. Because again, really what we have when we have a North Star is we have a constant, we have something constant and consistent in our life that'll anchor us, weather the storms, stabilize things, ground us, give us that sense of ongoing progress, and take us away from that probability of getting into that mess that happens when we get into the procrastination monster. And God bless you, Dan, for swallowing it whole and still being man enough to talk about it. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about Dr. Jen. Dr. Jen is a longtime client of Full Circles, an absolute rock star, great friend of mine. Love Dr. Jen. And Dr. Jen was, when she came to us, was literally in a different place than she is today. Literally, Jen had 2 jobs. She was a part-time chiropractor. She was also a college instructor in anatomy. Then that, and she enjoyed the work, but she really felt like her calling in life was, you know, to really be able to take ownership of her chiropractic practice, right? So as I said, there was a career in chiropractic as well as a secondary career. And there certainly were some cash flow challenges as a result of that. Some of the things that I already talked about on this conversation tonight, right? That she had at times struggled with cash flow problems, the ups and downs, the yo-yo stuff, the fear in the back of the head. And what she really wanted to do was to let go of that teaching job. But she had fears, she had, you know, uncertainties about what that might look like and how that might go, right? And what she was really looking for was the growth that would come out. She wanted to see the growth in the chiropractic practice, so she had the confidence to let go of that. And certainly it was a journey. It was not something that happened overnight, but many of the concepts and constructs that we're going to talk about here tonight, this idea of having a North Star, ground to, something to really use as an anchor and an inner guidance system for you, was really one of the turning points for Jen. And as a result of that, she was able to successfully let go of her second job and to really focus on her practice. There's been tremendous growth. I mean, it became one of our inside sort of, I guess I want to say conversations in our coaching meetings that, Jen broke another record this week or this month, right? She just kept, going through all of these different growth phases as she got grounded to her North Star. And of course, much of the work that she did outside of that. One of my favorite stories about Jen is the gift that she bought her mom, I believe, and Dodie, maybe you could guide me on this. I think it was last summer or last fall. She was able to buy her mom's dream vehicle, which was a Jeep. And her mom had always wanted one and was never be able to be in an economic place to be able to afford one. And because of the commitment Jen has to herself, to her growth, to her North Star, she was able to not just, leave that second job, explode her chiropractic practice, but with some of the profits of that, she was able to gift her mom something that was very, very special and important to her. And that, to me, you guys, is really the one of the biggest reasons why we do what we do here at Full Circle, is the opportunity to serve people at that level and help them, build their lives and their business, their ideal. And as a result of that, share their abundance with those that they love. I mean, that is really, to me, pretty much an anchor story for why we do what we do here in this company. All right. So we're going to talk about the 5 keys here. And if I can get this, I'm trying to get this chat thing to move, and it just really doesn't want to move. So maybe it's going to have to end up staying where it is. Hopefully I can still read my slides, Dodie. The 5 keys we're going to talk about tonight relative to this North Star is the foundation, your linked goals, inspiration, meaningful manifestation, and we're going to correct and continue. Okay, so let's go in and talk about this. We're going to talk about your foundation, and I'm really quite puzzled as to why this chat does not want to move. So maybe if I just get rid of it. I can't even get rid of it. Isn't that interesting? Okay, your foundation, it's not showing up on your screen, is it, Dodie? The chat screen? Okay, good. It's an overlay here, and it's just really weird because I can't actually move it. Usually you can grab it with your mouse and move it, but it just does not want to move. So
I understand your frustration sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, technology is what it is. All right, so here's what we want to do, you guys. Some of the things that your North Star can accomplish for you is to actually act just like the foundation of your home or a building or whatever, okay? Because you can only build a building up to the degree that you've got a strength of foundation underneath it, okay? And this North Star idea really allows you to build that foundation upon which everything else goes and builds from, right? You can only build up to the degree you can build down. And so even though, the idea or the metaphor of a North Star is it's sort of up here and above you, really what we're going to talk about tonight is something that's not just above you, it's within you, and how that acts as a foundation in your life, okay? Now, one of the reasons I said earlier that people will procrastinate, the most common reason I've found is when people do not have meaningfuls that are linked to their North Star, linked to the thing that makes them special, the thing that is the driver in their lives, right? And one of the things that we'll talk about tonight is a linking exercise in order to help you see that. Because when you can see how your North Star is driving you forward relative to achieving all the priorities and all the goals that you're setting, because many times what I have seen in the past is people are not necessarily taking the time to make the priorities and goals in their life linked from their North Star, linked from the essence of who they are. So it's absolutely imperative, you guys, that we really can see directly, not indirectly, directly, how this goal, this priority is going to serve this North Star of ours, which we'll talk about here in just a second as we go through and do this together. One of the things, again, that is the antithesis or the kryptonite to procrastination is, in fact, inspiration. And one of my mentors made a great distinction years ago that I completely bought into. And he talked about the difference between inspiration and motivation. Okay, motivation is an outside-in thing. It's somebody else influencing you to, kick your butt at times, or to coax you, or to love you along, to draw you forward into a certain, mode of behavior or a characteristic. That is an outside-in thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. It has its place. But I'll tell you, anytime that I can take inspiration, which comes from the inside out, I can tell you it's always going to be more authentic, it's going to be longer lasting, it's going to be more productive, it's going to be more fulfilling, and it's going to create more joy in the long run. So again, With this North Star that we're talking about tonight, when it's in place, it provides that perpetual state of inspiration, and you can literally just say goodbye to the procrastination monster at that point. Okay. And again, we talk about meaningful manifestation because there are people that are just, incredible manifestors, but there's not necessarily meaningful to them. In one of the coaching programs I was a client of called Strategic Coach, I met a lot of really fascinating people from around the world there. And it was interesting how some of these people had got into different businesses and were just cranking it up for the sake of cranking it up. And then they get to a certain point in their life and they're like, you know what? I'm working like 70, 80 hours a week. I got all kinds of money. In any of the cases I talk to people, I got all kinds of money, but it doesn't really mean anything to me. I feel kind of hollow inside. And very commonly, what would happen? They would, sell off this business, take the money, go lay on a beach somewhere, find themselves, and then turn around and get into something that's meaningful to them. I met a guy who was a very high-end Wall Street, power broker guy. And in his early 40s, he sold out for a decent amount of money he didn't tell number, but I know it was quite decent. And went and hung out for 6 or 8 months, got bored, and then did something he wanted. And he was doing organic farming, for God's sakes, right? Because it was meaningful to him, right? And so again, what's meaningful to one person is not necessarily meaningful to another. And that's the beauty of the design of the universe. It's the beauty of the creative intelligence and how it's set up, because everybody has a slightly different twinkle, if you will, to the North Star. And again, if it's not transparent enough to you at this point, what we're really talking about is this synonym I'm using for the North Star is really all about your core values. Your core values are the essence of who you are. That's actually an absolutely pivotal part of our program here at Full Circle is to get into the full circle, into the core values and what they mean to you. Everybody's values have slightly different connotations to them, but they can act as a North Star. Values come from voids. And I would offer, if you get into the spirit plane, right, step out of the physical plane, step into the spirit plane, that the essence of who you are, your authentic essence, your soul, your spirit, came here to learn things, came here to experience things, came here to express itself in certain unique ways. And those voids that you either came in with or that you manifested relatively early in your life are there for you to shine ahead and look at something that you value. Right? Because a void, something that you don't have in your life, something you're not expressing in your life, something you're not experiencing in your life, it's literally bred into us. It's part of the essence of who we are as spiritual beings, that we want to experience that. We want to go after that. We want to express that. Because as a result of that, we become more whole, or if you will, closer to the Creator, closer to the oneness, because we add another layer of understanding, of awareness, experience, of expression to ourselves, right? Now, those voids are unique to each individual person, and they change over time. The expression of them changes over time. One of my voids as a youngster was finance, because I came from, fairly humble beginnings. My folks were blue collar workers. Mom was a secretary at a high school. My dad was literally Paul Bunyan. He was a lumberjack. He often says he was a jack of all trades and a master of none. He did his hand at all kinds of things, mechanics and millwrighting and building and all kinds of things, right? But again, what it meant was we didn't have a lot of financial abundance in our lives. I heard a lot of discussions / fights as a child about money. And I learned really early on that if I was going to have anything extra in my life, I was going to have a pellet gun or a new pair of shoes, or I was going to have a bike, it was because I was going to figure out a way to generate the revenue to do that. And so my entrepreneurial drive, which literally is still with me today, which is why Full Circle even exists, is from that void. It served me, right? And now one of my values, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in their conversation tonight, is literally what I call financial legacy. Because I want to create a structure, because as my great friend Garrett Gunderson taught me years ago, your financial capital is a byproduct of your intellectual capital and your relationship capital, right? Financial capital, relationship capital plus intellectual capital. So I've studied finance a lot. Why would I bother doing that? Because there was a void in my life, because I didn't have a lot of that, and I wanted to experience that. I wanted to express myself in that way. And so out of that comes a program that, as of this recording, is in a few months or 6 weeks, called Abundant Financial Mastery, which is a synopsis of 30 plus years of study of finance. And so financial legacy is actually one of my values now, one of my North Stars, because I want to pass on that intellectual capital and the relationship capital to my kids, to their kids, to my grandchildren and their grandchildren, so that we can create a financial legacy so that no descendant of mine, either immediate or down generations from now, long after I'm lost in form in this planet, can actually not have to go through some of the things that I did as a kid. Now, some of those things, some people could turn it and use it as a woe is me and be a victim and just pout and complain and stuff. I guess that's a different path. That's not the path I took. I took a path as rock fuel to go and study and learn about it and do things and then share that with others, share that with you guys, right? Share it with my kids, their husbands, my grandchildren and stuff, so that that legacy of financial awareness, again, let's be clear, when I'm not just talking about financial dollars and cents, that's a byproduct of your intellectual capital and your relationship capital. But driving underneath all of that is your North Star is in fact your values, the things that you value in your life. And when you can anchor that, you're clear about what it is and what it's not, what your values are, what they're not. And you use that again, as I'm going to say it 100 times, you guys, until you get sick of hearing me say it. But when that's your North Star, when that's your constant, then from there, all of your priorities and goals should or could flow from it. And when they do, constant state of inspiration, say goodbye to procrastination, you have fulfilling, meaningful goals and fulfilling meaningful manifestation of those goals. And the prosperity and the joy just follows from that space. Okay. So questions at this point in the chat. What's been most valuable for you so far and why out of this discussion so far tonight? I would really just love to pause, take a sip of water. Just please throw it in the chat. What has been most valuable for you so far and why? Staying hydrated, very important at this stage of the game, Dodie. Let's see what people are throwing into the chat here and stuff. Heather Lynn had said just a bit ago, I apologize, I missed that, Heather Lynn. I love what the link goals represents. Yes, that's a really important concept. So let's just find out what's been most valuable for you and why. I see fingers moving in the background. I know people are working at this. I'm thinking that somebody's writing a complete novel here, which would be way cool. And while we're doing this, you know, I'm just going to try a little experiment here. I'm going to try stopping the share for a brief moment. And you would think that at that point that things would shift back to the way that they were, but wow, things seem to be a bit unresponsive here. There we go. Let's see. We're no longer sharing screen. Let's see what we got here. Ruth says the link process. Feel that is what I need right now, and also the financial legacy piece. Tyson says, I loved how you mentioned that procrastination is from a lack of clarity. Yes, important things to understand and appreciate. Anybody else have something to offer in the chat? Love to see just what it is that's really you're connecting with right now, as we sort of make a transition in at this stage of the conversation that we're having tonight. Give people just a moment more, see how fast their fingers can type. Could you please reiterate what BLISS stood for? Yeah, good question, Tyson. BLISS is an acronym that we use at Full Circle, and it stands for Business Life Plan Intention Sheet. Okay, so it's how you find your magic number in life or in business, where you are absolutely clear about exactly how much money it takes for you to live your life and your ideal, based upon 6 categories that we advocate for here at Full Circle. So it's a business life plan intention sheet. It's what we call a foundational tool here at Full Circle. So, okay, cool. Well, listen, here's what I'm going to attempt to do, you guys. And last time I did this, it was my new iPad and my new computer were just not talking to each other. So I want to just show you another way to basically see what it is that I've been talking about here. And so I'm going to, assuming that my iPad decides to play nice, we're going to bring up my iPad to the screen. And Dodie, I think we've seen a nice white screen now, aren't you?
Yes.
Very cool. All right, so here's another way of looking at this, you guys, okay? If you were going to build a house, you would want to be sure that you had a really strong foundation. And that's, again, I talked about that earlier, that the foundation that's based upon your values, it's based upon what we're, you know, and we're sort of using it as a synonym here. Your North Star and your values are basically used synonymously. That if you have those values down here as a part of your foundation, then it's going to be very easy for you to build up. And over here, what you're going to have, as I said earlier, is you're going to have a state of inspiration, because values are things that are within. They're things that come from the biggest and best that's within you, and they share themselves from that core place. So if you've got that strong foundation based upon values, you'll have inspiration, which, you know, would be a very strong wall in the house. And then when you can take that inspiration and you can take your goals and you can link them back to that foundation, okay? And you're linking your goals and your priorities to that foundation, boy, now you've got another super strong wall, to use the model or the metaphor here, okay? And then out of that will come at least a part of this top of this house, if you will, to use my rather strange metaphor here. And out of this will become incredibly meaningful manifestation, not just for the sake of doing it, but doing it for the sake of the fact that you know in your heart of hearts that this is really what it is that you want to have and you want to bring forth in your life, okay? And so again, that is all predicated by, you know, again, our core values, okay? So core values are absolutely primal and primary, if you will, to our model here at Full Circle. And I want to help you basically get in touch with your values tonight. I know some of you on this call have definitely, you know, worked at your values before. So we're going to go in, and for those of you that have worked on them before, this is going to be a tiny bit of review. But what I want to do is walk you through, for those that are watching this recording at another time or are relatively new to the concept, I'm going to actually go through, and we're going to go through a core values search together so that you're 100% clear on exactly what it is. So you should have a worksheet that came with the invitation to join us tonight on this magic show, because no one ever goes to webinars, right? And so, Dode, are you seeing the values questionnaire? Yes, she is. So again, there's 13 questions, and I definitely want to pay tribute to my mentor, Dr. John DeMartini. A lot of my thinking on this was formed by my mentor, Dr. John, and I think he's one of the sharpest guys on the planet relative to values. I've seen some other really bright people do some work on this, Brendan Burchard, Tony Robbins. I just think John's probably got it the most dialed in. It's the most sensible at this stage. So again, why do you want to determine your values? Because that is your North Star. That is your foundation. That is and it will bring all of that stability, that groundedness, that inspiration, you know, into your life. So we're going to work at this because we like our magic shows to be, you know, works in progress, not just talking heads. So this very first question, pretty straightforward, but, you know, what do you fill your primary personal or professional space with? The things that are like arm's length from you, okay? And what's tied to that is, what do they mean to you? So I'm in my office right now where I spend an enormous amount of my life. And as I look around, I see, well, you know what? I could probably just turn my camera and I could show you some of the things that I see in here, right? I mean, I've got pictures of my children, of my grandchildren. I got pictures of my dogs in there. More pictures of them up here. I've got a computer. I've got an iPad. I've got some camera equipment. I mean, you know, so, you know, I could list each one of those things, but really the part is, what do these items really represent or mean to you? Now, again, this is, I've been at this for over 30 years, you guys. So this is pretty straightforward for me. But the last part of this question is the part that I really want you to hone in on, is what do they represent to you? So all of those things represent to me potential, and particularly human potential. And you'll see as we work through, and I'll share with you my values, my distilled values later, That's really an important thing. Now, one of the keys to this exercise, you guys, is to only put 3 items down in any one of these answers, okay? Just 3. So 3 times 13 is 39. You're gonna end up with 39 different answers. And so just for the sake of brevity tonight, I'm just gonna write one of those to each one of these, but I'm asking you to do all 3. So if you're very quick, in thinking and typing or writing, if you printed this document out, you could probably capture all 3 of these right now. And I can tell you from taking people through this exercise for almost 30 years, there's a really high value to not thinking too much about it, right? Is to just literally answering the question, and in the theater of your mind, as things come up to you, just write them down and worry about the distillation process later. Okay. Question number 2 is, how do you spend your time? What are the 3 things you spend your time on the most? And again, the key to that is, what does it represent to you? So if you were to just look at my, particularly my days of the week, you guys, not so much Saturday, Sundays, but so not my weekends, but my weekdays, that I would say that I spend a lot of time working. I love what I do. I do what I love. And really, again, it's so I work a lot. But what does that mean? Why do I do that? Well, as a hands-on chiropractor, and my purpose was the detection and release of subluxations for the enhancement of human potential. As a coach consultant, it's still the detection and release of subluxation, enhancement of human potential. That's really the constant there, you guys, right? And so really my work represents the optimal human expression. That's what excites me. That's what lights me up the most about the work I get to do as a coach consultant. So again, at least get 1 down, you guys, for tonight, as we work through this exercise together. Where do you spend your energy? What are 3 things that you always find energy for? What do you love doing that elevates your energy? And the first thing that jumps to my mind, you guys, is literally my workouts, right? My workouts are pretty much a daily activity for me. It energizes me. It helps me, it's part of my morning rituals that also involve Taoist Tai Chi, yoga, and meditation. But again, workouts, what I'm doing is it's a focus on my health. And my health really allows, I know that when I have my health, that I can continue to explore my potential. So there's a link to my health. There was a phase of my values where health was a standalone word for me, but really health is I focus a lot on my health because it allows me to explore my potential in every part of my life. Okay. Starting to see a theme here, I'm sure, right? At least with me. All right. How do you spend your money the most? What are the 3 things you spend your money on most, either qualitatively or quantitatively? Look at this relative to your spending over the last quarter. So it's good to go back and review this, not just in the last day or 2, but to look at it, as obviously the question states, over the last quarter or so. And, if you were to look over the last quarter to what I've done, I bought a new computer, bought a new iPad, not a new iPad, a new phone, a new iPhone. And why did I do those things? Those are 2 of the bigger sort of volume purchases. Well, because it allows me to continue to be effective in my work. Okay. And again, why do I work? Because it allows me to explore potential, both mine and yours. Okay. So again, that's just how I would answer that question at this moment. Where are you organized and ordered most? Where are you very, very predictable? Well, I can tell you that one's pretty simple for me. It's in my family. No one else never had to remind me to pick up one of my kids or take them somewhere, or date night with my wife was Wednesday nights for over 20 years. That was a place that I was very, very, very organized and ordered. There's other places, like it's pretty quick for me to say, in my work, I'm very, very organized. Why are you organized in any part of your life? Because you value it, obviously, right? Where are you reliable, disciplined, and focused? What does nobody have to remind you to do? And again, I'll go back to my workouts on this one. I'll also go down into family matters. Haven't missed a family dinner ever. One of the things that was very important to me was to get home for family dinner, even my kids were young. And I heard lots of practice consultants who said, you should work at least 1 or 2 nights a week till 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night and so on. And I'm like, yeah, what? Screw that. That's a direct contravention of my values. I want to be home with my little children. My kids were young. I want to be home with them and have dinner with them and help, bath them and put them to bed and read them stories and stuff. So our dinner was 6:30. My last, practice member, their appointment was at 5 minutes to 6. And I could count on two hands in, 15 years, the number of days that I walked out, later than 5 after 6. Like if I was done at 6, I was done at 6. I walked out the door 6:02, 6:04, 6:06. Why? Because I was going home to be with my family. Why? Because I valued that, right? It's literally, when you get into this mode of thinking, you guys, it's pretty easy to look at your behavior in life and understand. Now, here's what I have seen in the past: people that are living in contradiction to their values, and they tell their family they're going to be home for dinner at 6:30, and they get home at 8. And really what they're doing is they're telling their family that they're not as important as their patients are. And I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to observe that if that's the message that you want to send to your family, that's your prerogative. Maybe that's your value. Maybe you value the business more than you value your family. And that's fine. That wasn't my value, and I didn't want to send that message to my children. I can tell you this, you guys, the number of people I have coached, seems like a higher percentage of ladies, but the people that I've coached that had just angst about the one or the other of their parents were away a lot, worked a lot when they were young, and they felt abandoned. They felt like they weren't cared for, they weren't loved, they didn't matter. Man, I can tell you I've seen a lot of that in my coaching career in 25 years. All right. What do you inwardly think about the most, and is showing signs of manifesting? That's one of the keys, is that it's showing signs of manifesting. If it's not showing signs of manifesting, it's probably a fantasy versus something that you truly value, right? Another way to ask this question is, how would you love your life to be? What would you love to do? Or what would you love to have? Okay. And in this case, again, I would say that and actually I used to say it just as family, but it's actually a connected family is really something that is showing signs of manifesting in my life. I don't know what the parameters are or benchmarks people use for having raised a successful family, but one that my wife and I are currently using is that our kids, our adult children, actually still like to hang out with us. So that to me feels like the connected family that I strived for, okay? And the other one that I could really quickly write is business. And something that I think about and talk about again. And why do I talk about that? Because the type of businesses that I run, whether it's a hands-on chiropractic or coach consulting business, those are all about human potential. And that's really one of the things that I'm the most fascinated by. What do you visualize or envision? And again, is showing signs of manifesting, right? So I would say a successful family, by our definition, no one else's, and a successful business, which is again helping people live their most authentic lives. What do you internally talk about? What's that mental chatter inside? And again, that is showing signs of manifesting, right? And again, this is one, you guys, where now there's a lot of inner chatter right now about financial legacy, about what patterns, what intellectual pathways, thoughts, books, understandings and relationships can I help my children and grandchildren learn and understand that would help them live a profitable, productive, and fulfilling life. Number 10, what do you externally talk to others about? What do you chat about at a party? What engages you to discuss? And again, sometimes I'll talk about sports, sometimes I'll talk about business, a lot of times I'll talk about family, but all of those things, it's about the potential that they hold, right? It was fascinating for me when I found TSN, because I can watch TSN in the morning for a little bit of time and I could see all the highlights. And why am I attracted to that? Because I see the best of the best athletes in the world doing their most extravagant things, right? And hitting the highlights as a result of that. So that's something that's fun for me. What inspires you the most? What has consistently inspired you and presently continues to inspire you? And again, it's going to sound like a broken record here, you guys, but it's exploring human potential. I see things, I read stories. I love true stories, talking about how people have expanded the possibilities for their lives. And those are books that I read an awful lot of. All right, last two, you guys. What are your most consistent and persistent long-term goals that are showing signs of coming true? Okay, and these goals have commonly endured the test of time. And again, it would be pretty easy for me to talk about a connected family and what that means. One of the things that I put together, just as a point of interest, you guys, is after a lot study and thought is I put together I enrolled the family in family meetings, an annual family meeting, and we created a family bank and the structure that goes with that. So we have a Preston family mission statement, Preston family values, no surprise. We have a family bank now that helps funds the growth and development of the humans, right? Why would I do that? Because I'm excited about human potential. And I want my children and grandchildren and their grandchildren to be able to experience their fullest potential as well. Last one, what do you love reading, studying, listening about? What would be your Amazon? What would Amazon suggest for you? In our bookstore, what section do you make a beeline for? And for me, it's usually about spirituality. Okay, if I could type, spirituality and quantum physics are two things that I currently have a lot of fascinations with, because to me, they're literally one and the same. All right. Well, listen, let's just take a pause for a brief second. And does anybody have any questions in the chat at this particular time? If you do, just fire it out there. If it feels like it's going to take too long to type it and you're in a quiet background, just again, feel free to come off mute and we can have a dialogue and a conversation if you have any questions at this point. I know for some of you it's a bit of review, but again, I've been doing this exercise, teaching this exercise for over 30 years. I can tell you it is a game changer in terms of creating that stability in your life. Any questions at this point, you guys, either in the chat or coming off mute and just asking? It would appear not. All right, so listen, what you do, you guys, is you just tally up the values. And what you do is I'll often do is I'll just take a little sheet and do those little hash marks and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across and just add up the different words. Obviously, just for the sake of convenience and time tonight, we didn't necessarily go slow enough for you to get all 39 answers. But when you do, what I encourage you to do is put it down for a period of time for at least 20, 30 minutes, come back and reread it. And just see if the same answers come up for you again. You might tweak a couple or reword a couple and stuff as you put a little bit more intention into it. But at the end, what you want to do is just tally up the values, the number of times that the word family was referenced, or optimal human expression or experience in my example. Right? And these are just numbers from an earlier time. Then what you want to do is go through the distillation process. And there's a bit of writing in your worksheets for how to go through that. And as a byproduct of that, you will come out with your core values distilled. And that is, again, becomes your North Star, it becomes your grounding rod, it becomes your anchor. It allows you to weather storms, be perpetually inspired, and all of the things that we've been talking about so far, tonight. So that is really the essence of what values is all about. And what we're going to do now is I just really want to ask a question for those of you that are, live in the audience right now. How could this help you? How could making sure that you have complete ownership of your core values, you've elucidated them, you've grounded to them, you've linked any goals or priorities to your values, you've seen how it serves your values and stuff. How could this help you? How could this be of value to you in your life at this point? I would love to get some feedback here in the chat. Who wants to offer something?
Did you see Tyson's in there about how it was hard before? I'm not sure.
Yeah, actually I did. Organized priority of thought energy. I found this mega hard to fill in last week. Yeah, it is an exercise, Tyson, for sure. It does take a little bit of effort and a little bit of thinking, but I can promise you from, again, doing this exercise for so many years, it is worth its weight in gold to stay with it and do it. Dodie, would you speak to what core values have meant to you in your life? Because that was, many years ago, was somewhat of a new concept for you. So you want to just share what that's meant to you?
Two things. One is that it allowed me to make decisions easily based on my core values. So if I thought, someone presented an idea with me and I was like, if I was quickly able to link them to my values, I'm like, yes. But if it didn't link to my values, I could say no. So it was easier to make decisions that way. And I think ultimately it just really allows you to live authentically. Like you can express your greatness through what your values are, and allows you just to be who you need to be or want to be.
Well stated, Dodie. Very well stated. And I love, the first part. Well, I love all you said, but the first part, it's also made a big difference in my life, is the velocity with which I can make decisions. Because in this information laden culture we live in, man, there's just so much data coming at us all the time. And how do you filter that? How do you decide what rabbit holes to go down and what ones not to go down? Well, again, if you're using your values as that North Star, if you're using it as that filter, as that guidance mechanism, then you can't see how it's linked and connected to your values. It's probably not on your, shouldn't be on your radar. It's probably not a rabbit hole. I would actually change my language and say it's definitely not a rabbit hole. You should be going down. So again, when you're using that as that filter, as that litmus test for all the things that you think about or do, it makes all of the difference in the world.
It also allowed me to understand other people in their choices, because they would make choices linked to their values. So instead of me, not understanding or wanting them to do what I want them to do, I could see why they chose what they chose based on their values. So that's a really big thing, is knowing that my core values is not everybody's core values either.
Yeah, awesome. Very well stated, Dodie, right? Understanding and having compassion for our fellow human beings and stuff, and what it is that they value is I think, a really huge piece of the puzzle. And you can also understand it too, like as a doctor in an office, you can understand it from, how people value their health. I actually shot a video today. I mean, it would be incidental to people watching this recording years in the future, but I shot a video today about the real reason people come in to see you in your offices, in your healthcare offices. I promise you, the lies you've been told from the professors' universities that it's about the aches and the pains. It's not about the symptoms. It's not about the back pain, the headaches, the hemorrhoids, and the cancer. That's not why they're coming in. Why they're coming in is because what those dysfunctions, what those aches and pains are interfering with that they value in their life, right? So, I mean, if they can no longer pick up their grandkids, if they're worried about how their ability to go to work, because I mean, how many times, docs, have we had somebody come in and, one of the questions we ask is, well, how long has this been going on? They rarely tell you 3 hours, unless you're in a car wreck or something, right? It's like weeks, months, years, decades in some cases. So it's like, it's not the pain, because the pain's been there for hours, months, days, weeks, decades, right? It's what that dysfunction, what that pain is interfering with that they value. The ability to pick up their grandkids, their fear of not being able to work and not be able to make money and pay their mortgage, their ability to make love to their spouse, their ability to live a long, healthy life and be productive. Whatever their concern is, I promise you, it's based upon your values. And if you ask that question, you ask, what is it that they value that this is interfering with? Now you've really got an understanding of who this human being is and what's important to them. And if you focus on getting them back to that thing that they value in their life and stop focusing on the aches and the pains, I can tell you something, you will have the probability of having a practice member for life will be 1,000,000 times more as a result of that, all right? So Tom, the coach, says this. Here's your homework assignment. Pardon me for acting like a coach, but here's what I'm asking you to do, right? Finish the values review. And Tyson, if you need some help with it, or anybody else here and stuff, I mean, just reach out, right? We have complimentary discovery calls, we call them, where you get to discover more about yourself and more about one of the topics that we're working on. Coach Jay actually usually fronts that for us, and he has a lot of openings on a regular basis relative to doing those discovery calls, 10, 15-minute calls to really help you get that next level of clarity. So your 2 pieces of homework, should you choose to accept the invitation, like a Mission Impossible thing, do a values review. These are my current 3 values. Optimal human expression, probably transparent, as you looked at all the things that we talked about tonight. Family, and this is a fall picture as of this recording, you guys, a picture of my grandchildren. The tallest guy in the center here, this is Finley. He's 2.5 as of this recording. And this is Lincoln, who's the most cherub Gerber baby you ever met in your life. He's just got the biggest, roundest head and smile, and the kid smiles all the time. And then to balance out the 3 of them is Hadley. She's the little girl who this recording is 6 months old. And she's the most stoic little rascal I've ever met in my life. She balances out Lincoln really well because he's forever smiling. And Finn is just one of those gifted kids that is very, very aware of his surroundings. So my family is something I'm very proud of. family was my number one, connected family was my number one value for more than 25 years. And literally, it's just in the last couple of years that it's actually still unbelievably important to me, one of my highest values, but not my highest. Optimal human expression is. And part of the reason is because my children are older. They're adults now. They're in their 20s and 30s. And so it doesn't take as much energy to parent a 20-something-year-old as it does a 2-year-old. So if you look at where I use my energy, where I use my time, where I dedicate my money, and so on, all those questions that we just answered, you could see how optimal human expression is something that's more important to me. So first thing I want you to do your values review. Get your North Star, have ownership of it, use it as your guidance mechanism, use it to stabilize your life, use it to stop the yo-yo effect and the ups and downs that happen with life on a regular basis, okay? The second thing I want you to do is to understand and learn about linking your values to the things that you do. And I use this image here. I actually had two images, and I'm going to show the other one in just a second, but this is obviously a spider's web. And because when you see how a spider winds a web and they, link it out to the different things that it's attached to and stuff, right? That's really what you want to do with a linking exercise, is you want to link at least mentally, if not in writing, how this goal, this priority, this thing that you're moving towards, it serves your values. In my case, it serves my family, or it serves my my exploration of optimal human potential, or it helps me learn and understand more about how to pass on financial legacy, the intellectual relationship capital that I want to do, to my children. So, and this was a secondary picture my admin team found. I really like this one as well. A series of ropes all tied together into a beautiful central knot. My mentor on this, Dr. John DeMartini, as I mentioned earlier, he made a comment one time in a seminar, and he says, if money's not one of your top 4 core values, you'll never be wealthy, because you won't value it enough. And I went, kind of bothered me a little bit, right? Because I wanted to, have some financial abundance in my life, to do some of the things I wanted to do, like put my 5 daughters through university, which was one of our dreams, which we were able to manifest, right? And so I challenged John on it. And I said, John, I relative to my parents, I've done well financially, but I said, finances or money or abundance has never been in my values. And he goes, oh, simple. He says, you've just linked it to your other values. What values have you linked it to? And, it was really quickly family, because it provides opportunities for my children to do the things that I wanted them to do. And so again, as you go through the distillation process, you guys, it's really important that you do your best to distill it down, but there might be words that don't show up there, but they may be literally subconsciously linked, just like finance was for me early on, linked to the growth and development of my family. Okay. So that's your homework, should you choose to accept it. What's the benefit to you? Clarity, certainty, groundedness, stability, no procrastination, recurrent inspiration. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, the benefits to you to investing the time and energy to do this. So literally, here's one of the last questions I have for you. How will this make your life easier if you choose to actually take me up on my request to do this? I'd love to see somebody pop off mute and answer that question. How is having a grounded, continual state of inspiration, linking your priorities and goals, how is this going to make your life easier? Anybody willing to come off mute and discuss that, or just pop it into the chat? Anybody have anything to share at this moment in time?
Less procrastination.
Less procrastination. That's a good one and an obvious one, Dodie. Well stated. Nikki says avoiding distractions. Yeah. Dan says acts as a way of avoiding the shiny objects that keep popping up. Yeah, very well stated, Dan, right? There's a lot of those meaningful distractions in life these days, right? It's a good way to do that. Tyson says ability to provide experiences for your kids. Yes, 100%, sir. You're linking it to your highest value of family for sure. So thank you for sharing, you guys, in the chat. That's meaningful to me that you're taking the time to do that. So this is an ongoing journey for us at Full Circle. We love to share our understandings, our context, and our content with you guys. And so this is a regular experience. We have our magic shows. Again, move them from Tuesdays to Thursday nights as of 2022. We have the entire year planned out, you guys. On average, every 2 weeks or twice a month, we have these magic shows. So the next one is in 2 weeks from tonight, as of this recording, January 27th, 2022 at 7:30 Eastern. And it's literally the key to staying laser focused for business growth, because as Dan just said, it's and Nikki had stated, it's you got to watch these distractions, these shiny things that come up, and certainly having a internal guidance system, your value system, is absolutely pivotal, as hopefully you can appreciate even greater as a result of our time together tonight. But this conversation we're going to have in 2 weeks is just a whole other layer of certainty around making sure that you can stay laser beam focused. Because when you're laser beam focused, I mean, just like a laser can cut, diamonds or steel, when you're laser beam focused, you can move mountains and cut through the BS of life and getting on with what it is you're supposed to be getting on with, right? So thanks so much for taking the time out of your lives. For those of you that are live, for those of you watching this in the recording, appreciate you taking the time to expand and stay committed to your growth and development. In this case, really making good use of a North Star is what this entire conversation has been about tonight. Hopefully it's provided some value to you, and we'll do those things that we've talked about, right? Tyson says, thank you so much. Absolutely, Tyson. It's my honor. It's a way that I can fulfill my purpose by being here tonight. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here and be able to share, some times. Dodie, of course, you're most welcome. And Dode, thanks you for investing time to get here and being my co-host. It's very much appreciated. So before we leave, if anybody has any final questions, I'd be very happy. Nikki, you're most welcome. Anybody have any final questions, clarifications, or affirmations? Ruth, you're most welcome. I appreciate you as well. I just thought before we leave, we'll just make sure there's no questions sort of pending, you guys. So let's just see if it is before we go. And Dan, thanks. It was a great review. You're most welcome, Dan. I appreciate you and Rob very, very much. So I would say that probably, Dodie, we are ready to wrap. So listen, everyone, thanks so much for, again, taking time out of your lives to be here and embracing this. If you're someone that would like some assistance with this distillation process, because, Tyson had brought it up earlier on this call, it's a handful, it's a mindful, right? So we do have that opportunity to do those discovery calls, and just complimentary on us. It's how we share our abundance with the world. Because one of the sayings we really have ownership of here at Full Circle is a rising tide raises all ships. So as you grow, we grow. So if you're someone that would like some help with that, just reach out. I'm sure there'll be a couple of follow-up correspondences with us from this, and we'll certainly be sure to put the link in those correspondences. So everybody, thank you so much for being you and for being a part of our world. And we look forward to chatting with you in 2 weeks. All right.
Thank you.
Everybody, enjoy your evening. Night, everyone.